Welcome everybody to the studio, and today's topic is the Dynaudio Emit 10 and 20. I've been thinking about these videos much more than I normally think, when I just set up to detail a car or talk about some pressure washing partner piece. And so I'm going to continue to do that with these speakers. I've been thinking about rattling off specs and things like that. And I think the better way to do this is for me to just tell you what I know. Tell you what I like, tell you what I don't like, and I think that will be useful in providing you with a buying decision. Because I'm sure if you're considering buying a $1,000 pair of speakers, that you're probably watching and reviewing and looking at a bunch of different stuff. So I'm going to give you my take on this and why I think you'll want these and where this applies and what might make sense for you. So let's get into it. So I want to say, my Dynaudio history is okay, but these are a brand new version of the speaker, and I want to say that these, I know these replaced the Emits that were originally created in 2015, and then there was another line inside of there, maybe a step above this, which was called Excite. And then before all of that, there was another speaker line they had called DM series. And so they've had quite a few different versions of an entry-level speaker, and I think this is the first time. I don't know this for a fact because I didn't talk to the Dynaudio guys, but this is the first time that we've had a speaker that's made as efficiently as possible. It's made in China. And designed and engineered in Denmark, but made in China, and I think that this is their first foray into that, which has caused the pricing to come back to reality. I think my first pair of Dynaudio speakers was Excite 10s, and I want to say used I paid like $950 or $1,000 for that pair of speakers. So that kind of puts it out of the realm of possibility for most people. And so these harken over to, they look a lot like the LYD stuff that I'm so enamored with, that I use on my desk and we use in garages all over the place that have an amplifier. These are very similar to those, but in a non-amplified version. And I think it's worth the cost savings to have these. These are not manufactured in Denmark. The fit, finish, and design, I think if you get your hands on these, you'll peel that made in China sticker off the back of it and never think about it again. So I want to preface this video by talking about that. These are Chinese manufactured, but Chinese manufactured doesn't mean bad. It means more cost effective, and I think that this that for this line of speakers, I'm glad that they did this, because then it opens up the possibility. I mean, you have a $700 or $1,050, there's a $1,050 pair of speakers that sound like a $3,000 pair of speakers, and I think that's what we're hoping for. And because of the way that the fit and finish, the way that they're put together, it actually works really well for the garage, and we'll talk about that a bit. So they do make some floor standing, or a floor standing version of these, or two floor standing versions of these. They also make a center channel as well, which we could special order for you. But we're going to stock and carry these in all three colors. We'll talk about the colors here in a second. But the Emit 10 is the smaller, and Emit 20 is the bigger. And I'll tell you this right up front: if you can swing the extra $350, you want the big boy. You want to go with Emit 20s, and they play down lower, they have more amplitude, they have more output, they have the same tweeter, but the bigger box and the bigger woofer gives us, more presence, if you will, and they'll play down lower, and you can get away without running a sub on either one of these, but these will do even better if you have no intention to run a subwoofer. So the Emit 10, this is the black version, and these are not a bespoke wood handcrafted cabinet like the big brother to this, the Evoke line, which we'll be talking about in the future. These have a very similar face to the it's like a it's a polished, like acrylic coated version of a piece of wood on the front. It looks very similar to LYDs, which like I said, I'm a huge fan of. But these speakers look like, to me, they look like a $700, $800, $1,000 speaker. They look like they're supposed to. Unlike you buy like the PSBs, which I'm so enamored with, when you get these in the box, you get the box and you open it up and you see the quality of the structure of the cardboard and how it's packaged. It is packaged in foam, whereas like an Evoke is packaged in a felt encasement. It's packaged appropriately. It makes sense when you open it up and you lift up the speaker. There's some heft, there's some weight to it. You're not going to be questioning the audio quality when you get them. The corners, they're square, they're tight. The finish of the wrap doesn't feel like a vinyl type finish. It feels like what you'd expect a speaker of this quality to feel like. The port is plastic, but it's fit in nicely. These are very precisely built. So there's no hint of any kind of any huge cost savings other than the materials they're using. Again, this is not a real wood finish. This is an MDF cabinet with a vinyl veneer on top of it, and the fit and finish is what you would think it would be. The binding posts are of high quality. You've probably seen binding posts like this on other speakers, so. It's again what I would expect to have on a speaker of this quality. You can do a spade connector very easily. Spade is like a fork-like connector, or you could put a banana plug on it as well, which I'd recommend for these. I use spades on Dynaudios a lot, but for whatever reason, the binding posts they use, even on the big boys, I have the Contour 60s at my house. I actually prefer a banana plug. If you're not familiar, banana is a straight pin that goes in. A spade looks like a fork. Theoretically, a spade is a superior connection because it has more surface contact. But again, when you get into you can get into this debate of sound travels at the speed of light through a copper wire, whether you use a lamp cord or some $10,000 Kimber cables. You would be a lot would argue that the sound quality difference is hard to measure. So when you get the box, you open it up. This is, I believe, the only set of Dynaudio speakers that isn't double boxed. And so we'll experiment. They are packaged extremely well. Their box design is done pretty fantastically. I think that we will probably send these out in a double box. I'm torn because these are packaged extremely well, but it is not double box like most of the Dynaudio stuff is. So there's some cost savings there to keep the cost down. They do come with the signature Dynaudio magnetic tweeter cover, so all the speakers come in the package like so. There's metal around here, and then this cover has a magnet. So all the speakers come with that, and so you'll pull this off or lift this off carefully. If you're ever moving the speakers around, transporting them, I would suggest you kind of keep this handy and make sure you put it on and cover up the tweeter so that way you don't damage it. The tweeter is, my guess would be, other than the crossover in here, is probably the most expensive part. This is essentially the same tweeter as the Evoke, the big brother Evoke, and so you want to be careful not to damage. It's a Dynaudio proprietary coated fabric silk dome, and so they coat the silk in some secret formula. They don't tell us what it is, and that secret formula is what helps keep it smooth and sounding like have the Dynaudio signature even in a entry level speaker. The woofer on the 10 is a slightly over 5.5 inch. It's a 14 centimeter. The woofer on the 20 is a slightly over 7 inch, which is an 18 centimeter. It's like 7.08 inches if you do the quick math. So a slightly bigger than 7-inch woofer. Tweeter's the same, and of course you can see the size of the enclosure. The enclosure size is quite a bit different. Same bass reflex rear port design, and all the speakers, all Dynaudios, they send a port plug. It's a piece of styrofoam that pressure fits in. I've experimented with speakers, sitting up next to the cabinet. I've experimented them on, on the Dynaudio fancy stands that are out in the middle of the room, and I've heard of these in many, many different applications. I prefer it without the port plug, even if you have this, sitting in a corner on a wall. But when you do plug the port, you will, remove some of the boominess. If you find you're getting some boominess, they do come with a port plug on both speakers. The grills are pretty nice too. They're magnetic grills. These always fit on properly. There's a little bit of a little felt foot here. Again, the quality of the fit and finish of these is Dynaudio ilk. So don't get hung up on where it's manufactured. What they're doing here, so you're getting all the fit and finish, but with less costly materials. You're getting Dynaudio drivers, but with less costly materials. And so you're getting all of the thing you want from Dynaudio, with the exception of some furniture grade cabinet. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of these, especially for the garage. For those of us who don't value the audio there as much as maybe I do. I do have a set of Dynaudio Heritage speakers. They're 7,000 a pair in my garage, but I'm obsessed with this stuff, and luckily this is what I do for a living, so there's a benefit for me to have the fancy stuff in my garage. This, you're going to get a good percentage of the quality and the sound signature of a Dynaudio Heritage pair of bookshelves for a fraction of the cost. But you'll notice when I go to put the grill on, it snaps magnetically. It's just the right amount of magnetism, where it wants to sit flush. It wants to sit in the right spot, and you can even hear it as I try to pull it off. It does sit on there nice and tightly. This is where if you're considering a pair of $450 PSB bookshelves that are really nice, like the P5s. These have a similar sort of veneered finish, much bigger heft, much heavier weight. For the extra $250 for a pair of these over, say, a set of P5s, you can feel the difference in the grill. You can feel the difference in the binding posts, in the cabinet, and the veneer they have chosen, the fit and finish, just the heft of the speaker. I can promise you're not going to open this up and say, man, what a piece of crap. When I open the PSBs up, I'm like, man, there's no way this is any good. Now, the PSBs, when you turn them on, they sound incredible, and so that offsets any sort of cheapness in the enclosure. Whereas these, they don't feel cheap. They not only do they sound great, but they don't feel cheap either. So you have different finishes, different colors. Obviously, for the garage, I think black is your best choice. One thing I will make note of that I'm not super enthused about, if you did decide to go white, Mike, can you capture that hue difference there? Because the material's different, this is a very stark, very perfect white on the enclosure, on the veneered part of the wood. But on the front portion, there's a bit of a kind of a doveness to the finish on the front of the speaker, and the whites, both the 10s and the 20s. I don't want you to be disappointed. This is one of those things that if you did go white, I love the contrast of the black on white, especially when you put, if you're going to put a grill on the front of it too. I think it looks fantastic. I'm looking at it in camera here. It looks great, but this is one of those things, when you open the box, I want to prepare you for this. When you open this up, you're going to do exactly what I do, which is I'm scrutinizing every square inch of my new, $700 pair of speakers. and I'm immediately going to get a reaction out of myself. I'm sure you will too, that there is a contrast difference between these two, and you're going to feel like you got screwed. I'm telling you, after about 3.5 seconds of playing the speaker, and it being in the room and you not sitting there micromanaging it, it's not a big deal, but I do want to make you aware of it, that if you are going to do white, that there is a difference between the veneer or the finish on the white here and the finish here that is pretty noticeable if if I'm sitting on top of the speaker and really scrutinizing how it looks. But the white speaker is nice. The other thing that's nice about these is you don't see, there's no seam to the veneer. There's no seam to any kind of like a vinyl seam like there would be on the PSP stuff that we also stock and carry. The other finish, which I think if I was putting this in the house and if I had if I didn't have a lot of wood, I would consider doing the walnut veneered finish. To me, this finish is nice, but this to me feels more like trying too hard for my. I know these are expensive in the world of things, but in the world of speakers, these are very entry level, very low cost for the performance that you're getting. I would urge you to go. I think black is the best version of this speaker, but if you are looking for some contrast, we do stock the walnut, and it's walnut all the way across. So even the back section of the speaker has this walnut veneer. It has a grain to it. The black and the white have like a smooth, almost like a powder coat type texture, but the walnut version does have sort of a faux wood grain to it, which is really well done. I would just, again, I think the contrast of black on walnut is nice, but if I were making a recommendation, I would do the black speakers. But you can see from here, from a distance in a room, it does create a little bit, let's say maybe it feels a little fancier. What do you think, Mike? Feel a little fancier to you? But it's a little bit of faux fancy, which again, it's right on that edge of actually being fancy and faux fancy. So just keep that in mind. So the speakers also come with a useless a couple of brochures in the box. I come with this that is in like 50 languages, and I'm not sure what you would even need this for. And it talks to you about how to set up I guess this is just a general guide that they put in all the speakers, but there really is nothing you need to do other than when you open the box, I would urge you, so you don't damage it right from the get-go, put the feet that come with it. Unless you're going to mount it on a stand immediately, I would put these feet on the speaker so you're not sliding it around and scratching the finish. These, for a lot of us, are a lifetime purchase. It's something you buy and you'll enjoy for the rest of your life. These are the level of a speaker that you could hand down to the next generation. This is just the entry level of that type of speaker, and so I would put the feet on it immediately. So let's talk about the garage and how you would do this, why you would do this. So the garage is a particularly poor listening environment. It's not good for acoustics. It's generally, you generally get lots of distortion, reverberation, some vibrating if you have cheaper cabinets, or really any cabinets if you have a subwoofer in there. You have metal, you have concrete, you have plastic, you have glass. You have all the surfaces that you don't want in a proper acoustic environment. But I have one ingredient in the garage that is important, and that's that I spend a lot of time in there and I really enjoy listening to music as a secondary activity. I'm not one to sit down, take time, listen to music in a 2-channel listening environment. I will sit down and watch movies, which these can do very well at as well. But I'm one to do background listening, and I really enjoy a great listening experience when I'm doing something like changing an intake or polishing my hood, or I guess polishing is not a good time to listen to speakers, but the in-between polishing. When I'm working on a project, it's more enjoyable to sit on a stool and clean the cracks and crevices of your wheels. There's nothing better than having a good audible or a good audio experience when you're sitting there doing it. And if you haven't experienced that and you're listening to some little Bluetooth thing or some crappy headphones, I'm telling you, it'll make you smile, it'll make you happy. It makes the garage experience just that much better, having a great set of speakers in the garage. This line, this Emit, is where we start to get into like really high quality audio in the garage. And the reason that these do so well is this guy right here. And again, this is essentially the same tweeter that they have in the much more expensive, the $1,600 and $2,200 pair of Evokes. This has what they call Hexis technology. It's the portion inside the tweeter that helps with resonance, vibration, distortion, and annoying shrillness. So you take Dynaudio's signature sound, you put it in an affordable cabinet, and you end up with a fantastic experience, especially for the garage, where the garage needs that smoothness. The Silk Dome tweeter and Dynaudio's smooth signature really works well in the garage. So I would want, in a perfect world, I would want to power this with a decent amplifier, but these are 6 ohm speakers. So you do need to be careful. If you have a really cheap amplifier, they're going to overdrive it. Really cheap amps would generally need an 8 ohm speaker. So they are 6 ohms, so they will pull a little bit, they will extract a little bit more out of your less expensive amplifier, but it will also make it run hotter and work harder. So I'm thinking, you're going to want at least a $300-400 receiver and up. I'll be launching a line of network receivers from Onkyo at some point here, hopefully early next year, to be able to power to complement these. In a perfect world, I would want to see you with something like an NAD 368, which is a integrated digital analog converter. It's basically a streamer with an 80 watt per channel amplifier, which 80 watts doesn't sound like a lot, but it really works well. The smoothness, cleanness, and clarity of an NAD complements the Dynaudio stuff really, really well. And we'll have various packages for that. So the way you set these puppies up is I get a speaker wire and I connect it. I've got a 500-foot roll of CI rated in Metra. I think actually that one is from Monoprice, 12 gauge speaker wire, and that's all I really need. If I wanted to do something a little nicer, we do have some better speaker cables. You could run like the Metra VLOX stuff to the speakers, but a pair of speaker cables and a digital analog converter like a Blue Sound Node, or Power Node I should say, or the NAD 368, or one of these sort of Onkyo network receivers, or an old receiver you had laying around, can function well for these. The more power you give them, the smoother, cleaner, crisper they're going to be. And these can handle, they say 180 watts, 160, 180 watts per channel, but they can handle, even more than that if you had some big, heavy, solid amplifier you had laying around. So Emits, again, we're going to stock in the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, and the 50s, and the center channel will special order. I'm not smiling enough because these are freaking awesome. It's a bit overwhelming when you look at all the different audio solutions that are out there in the world. I'm hoping to curate them, put together packages. That's coming next. Once we get all these products created, we'll have packages of recommended solutions with speaker wires and all of that, and all your connections if you wanted to run a subwoofer or not, if you wanted to connect to your TV or not, and so we can design all that stuff for you. Hit us up, design@obsessedgarage.com if we're doing your whole garage. If you need cabinets and flooring and lighting, hit up Kyle and his team, or hit up support@obsessedgarage.com if you're just looking for some speakers. Manny's a big audio guy, and his team, Tommy's getting into audio as well, so the tech support team is there to support you in your decision-making process. These are sold in pairs, unlike the studio monitors that are sold individually. And like I said, if we don't have it here, we'll get it for you. I really appreciate your support. It helps me out a lot in chasing this stuff. But garage audio can really transform your experience in the garage. I think it's the third or fourth thing you want to do in there. Flooring, lights would be the first two things. And then to me, I want some audio, and then cabinets come after that. So Dynaudio Emit, yeah, I think you want it, and I think this is your way to get into the entry into higher end audio that does well in such a harsh environment. So thanks for your support, and yeah, if you have questions, hit us up. See you soon.